The boutique was quiet enough to hear the soft hum of the overhead lights, the kind of silence that settled only in places where the prices carried more weight than the items themselves. Glass shelves glowed with warm amber light, reflecting rows of luxury watches. Behind the counter, the shop owner, Marilyn, stood with her arms folded, watching every customer like a spotlight instead of a host. And then he walked in, a black man, late 30s, calm posture, a quiet presence, the kind that didn't rush, didn't fidget, didn't need to prove anything. But Marilyn didn't see calm. She didn't see dignity. She saw something else entirely. The moment he reached for a watch on the display, she snapped. Her voice cut through the store like glass hitting tile. "Hey, put that down, you can't afford it." It wasn't said quietly. It wasn't whispered discreetly. It wasn't even a misunderstanding. It was public, loud, sharp, intentionally humiliating. Every head in the boutique turned. Even the security guard stiffened. The man froze, not out of guilt, but out of shock, as if his mind needed a second to process the fact that a complete stranger had just cut him down in front of a room full of people. And what she didn't know was that this moment would follow her far beyond these four walls.
Before we continue, if you're moved by stories where truth rises above prejudice, make sure you subscribe for more powerful Black justice narrations. It helps the channel grow and keeps these stories alive. Like, comment, and share this video so you never miss the next one. Your support helps us keep telling stories that matter. Now back to the story.
He didn't get angry. He didn't curse. He didn't raise his voice. He simply set the watch back gently and looked at her, a look not of fear or shame, but disappointment, the kind that made the room feel smaller, tighter, heavier. "Is there a problem?" he asked quietly. Marilyn scoffed. "Yes, there's a problem. Items like these are not for browsing. They're for serious buyers. If you're here to waste time, you can leave." A small crowd had begun forming behind him, whispering. Someone muttered, "That's uncalled for." Another whispered, "Why would she shout like that?" But Marilyn didn't hear them, or she pretended not to. She stepped closer, lowering her voice enough to sound polite, but still dripping with condescension. "You people always try this. Touching things, pretending you're buying, making my staff uncomfortable." He blinked slowly. Not surprised, just saddened. "What makes you think I can't afford it?" he asked, voice steady. She laughed softly, an ugly, joyless laugh. "The fact that you walked in wearing that," she said, gesturing at his plain hoodie and jeans. "The fact that you didn't even ask for assistance. The fact that—" But she stopped, because at that exact moment, a small vibration buzzed inside his hoodie pocket. He reached slowly into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and glanced at the notification. A soft ding. It read, "Concierge update. Your credit limit has been extended. Tap to view your new privileges." He tilted the screen slightly, not enough for the entire store to see, but enough that Marilyn caught the small gold emblem in the corner, a symbol exclusive to a very elite tier of clients. Marilyn blinked, confused and unsettled. He slipped the phone back into his pocket. "I came here to buy a gift," he said calmly, "for someone special." "Oh, and what gift is that?" she snapped. He pointed back toward the watch she yelled at him for touching, a handcrafted limited edition model, sitting under a spotlight like a crown jewel. "I thought this one was nice." Marilyn almost choked. "That watch costs more than most people make in 2 months. And you thought you could just pick it up?" Her employee, a younger woman named Elena, went behind the counter. "Marilyn," she said quietly, "maybe he just wants to—" "Stay out of this," Marilyn hissed. The man took a slow breath, steady and quiet. This wasn't new to him, but it still hurt. He looked around the store. Everyone was watching, not because of what he did, but because of what had been done to him. And still, he didn't raise his voice. He simply said, "If you don't want to help me, that's fine. I can leave." Marilyn smirked, satisfied. "Yes, I think that would be best." But then Elena noticed something. When the man turned slightly toward the door, his wallet shifted in his back pocket, just enough for a thick, matte black card to peek out. A card so exclusive that most people never see one in their lives. Her eyes widened. "And Marilyn," she whispered urgently, What? Marilyn snapped. Look at his wallet. Marilyn turned her head just in time to see the corner of the card slide fully into view. Her confidence faltered. Just a little. Just enough of the room to feel it. But she recovered quickly, crossing her arms again. Probably fake, she muttered. But for the first time, she sounded unsure. And the man? He simply watched her, calm, composed. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't lecture her. Not yet. But the truth was already walking toward her, step by step, like a quiet storm she didn't see coming. The man turned fully toward the door, the soft jingle of the boutique's wind chime brushing the air as he stepped forward. He wasn't rushing. He wasn't flustered. His movements were slow, deliberate, as if he were giving Marilyn every possible chance to correct herself. She didn't take it. Good, she muttered loudly, ensuring everyone heard. We don't need people pretending to shop here. This isn't a place to wander around like it's a flea market. The crowd stirred uncomfortably. A few customers exchanged looks of disbelief. One woman whispered, "Is she serious right now?" Elena pressed a trembling hand against her lips, watching the situation unravel like a slow-moving train collision. She'd seen tough customers before, angry ones, rude ones, impossible ones. But never had she seen her boss humiliate someone so calmly standing in front of her. The man paused at the door, not to turn around, but because a soft, weary ache pulled at his chest. Not sadness, not anger, disappointment, the kind that sinks into your bones. He inhaled deeply, his voice steady when he finally spoke. All I asked was to see the watch. Yeah, Marilyn shot back. And I said you can't afford it. Why drag this out? Each word made the room smaller. A young boy standing near the counter stared at the man with wide, confused eyes, as if he couldn't reconcile the calm, kind-looking stranger with the ugliness being projected onto him. The man met the boy's eyes and offered a gentle nod, as if to say, "You're okay. This isn't your fault." That nod alone told the room more about his character than anything Marilyn had said. But Marilyn saw the interaction and scoffed. Don't try to act innocent now. People like you come in here all the time, browsing, touching things, taking pictures, and never buying anything. People like me, he repeated softly. Yes, she said without hesitation. People who don't belong here. Silence. Heavy. Thick. A silence that didn't shout. It accused. And then he finally turned around. Slowly. Calmly. Like the quiet before tide shifts. What makes you think I don't belong? He asked. Marilyn rolled her eyes dramatically. Your clothes. Your attitude. Your whole presentation. I've been running this store for 15 years. I know who's a buyer and who's pretending. Elena tried again, bolder this time. Marilyn, That's enough, Marilyn snapped. This store has a certain standard, and I'm not lowering it for anyone. A murmur rippled through the customers, shock, discomfort, disbelief. One man whispered, "She's digging her own grave." Another said quietly, "There's something off. Did you see that card?" A ripple of foreshadow moved through the air, a quiet prelude to a truth waiting to surface. The man stepped closer again, not toward the watch, but toward the counter. His voice remained calm. "I didn't come here to pretend," he said. "I came here because this store was recommended to me." Marilyn threw up her hands. "By who?" "Someone who also can't afford anything here." He let the question settle like dust. Then he answered, "By the corporate office." Marilyn frowned. "What do you mean, corporate office?" He didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, he reached slowly into his wallet, the room holding its breath as the matte black card glided into view completely this time, catching just enough light to reveal its unmistakable texture. A woman near the doorway gasped. Another covered her mouth. Black cards weren't just credit cards. They were symbols of a level of wealth so high it didn't need to be spoken. Marilyn blinked rapidly, her confidence fracturing. That could be anything, she stuttered. A boutique membership card, a hotel key. Elena shook her head. No, that's real. But it wasn't the card that made Marilyn's throat tighten. It was what he pulled out after it. A small envelope, stamped, embossed, marked with the logo of the franchise chain she worked under. He set it gently on the counter. I was asked to visit this location today, he said quietly, to evaluate the customer service. Marilyn froze completely. What? She whispered. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't gloat. He didn't glare. He simply said, I'm the regional partner. The room fell into stunned silence. Even the lights seemed to hum softer, as if absorbing the shift in power. Marilyn's face drained of color. No, that's not possible, she whispered, voice trembling. They would have told me. Someone would have. He opened the envelope. Inside was a corporate letter signed by the franchise's executive director. Our new regional partner will be making unannounced visits to evaluate store culture, customer treatment, and compliance with franchise values. It might as well have been a mirror, reflecting every decision Marilyn had made in the last 10 minutes. The hurt, the arrogance, the prejudice, the humiliation. Elena's hand flew to her chest. Oh my God! Marilyn stumbled backward, shaking her head. And no, I didn't. He looked at her, calm but unwavering. You yelled at me the moment I touched an item, he said quietly. You assumed I had no right to be here. I didn't know, she whispered. What difference should that make? He asked gently. Her mouth fell open, but no words came. He didn't raise his voice. He raised the truth. And the room, once bright and boastful, now felt unbearably small. Marilyn stood frozen in place, her fingers trembling as the weight of her own actions settled over her like a collapsing ceiling. Customers had stopped pretending not to listen. They were openly watching now, each face marked with disbelief, disappointment, and a quiet kind of justice. The man, still steady, still composed, placed a letter on the counter with a calmness that made Marilyn's panic even sharper. Why, you don't understand, she stammered. If I had known, if someone had told me you were. He lifted his hand gently, stopping her. Why would that matter? He asked softly. She blinked, eyes darting as if searching for a script that no longer existed. I would have treated you differently. That, he replied, is exactly the problem. The words weren't loud. They didn't need to be. They carried the weight of every insult she had casually thrown at strangers who didn't fit her picture of belonging. He continued, his tone measured. Respect isn't supposed to be reserved for the people you think are important. It's supposed to be for everyone. A silence cut through the boutique. Thick, undeniable. Marilyn's knees wavered. She swallowed hard. I didn't mean to offend you. You didn't offend me, he said quietly. You exposed yourself. A gasp rippled through the room. Elena closed her eyes briefly. Not out of victory, but relief that the truth was finally standing in the open. The man turned to her. You tried to intervene. Thank you. Elena nodded, voice small. I'm just sorry you went through that. He offered a gentle smile. You didn't cause it. You just witnessed it. Then he looked back at Marilyn. Not with anger, but with the kind of clarity that leaves no room for illusions. He opened the letter completely and slid it across the counter so Marilyn could no longer deny it. As of this month, he said, I oversee all franchise performance reports in this region. That includes customer service, staff behavior, and management conduct. Marilyn's breath hitched. Her eyes glossed with panic. No, please, she whispered. You can't report this. You can't, my store will. Your store? He repeated softly. This store doesn't belong to you, Marilyn. You manage it. The franchise owns it. She staggered backward as if struck. And one of my responsibilities, he continued, is ensuring our values are upheld. Fair treatment, respect, inclusion, no discrimination. She collapsed onto the little stool behind the counter, voice sharp and desperate. I didn't discriminate. I just didn't think you were a real customer. You didn't think I was worthy of respect, he corrected. That's the truth. Her face crumpled. I can change, she whispered. Please don't take this away from me. He nodded once, not coldly, but with the firm compassion of someone who understands accountability has weight. I'm not here to ruin lives, he said, but I am here to correct them. She looked up at him through trembling lashes. What does that mean? It means, he said gently, There will be consequences. The words hit the air like quiet thunder. Corporate will receive a full report, he continued, including your conduct today, and any patterns we discover after reviewing customer complaints. Marilyn's eyes widened. See complaints? Yes, he said. 2 customers contacted corporate about this location just last week. Her face drained of color. But that wasn't my fault. They were being... He lifted a hand, stopping her. Just like you said I was... The room went silent again. She covered her mouth with both hands, tears rising. I can't lose this job. He watched her silently for a moment, long enough for the weight of reality to settle. Then his tone softened, though firm. You may not lose your job, but you will attend a mandatory retraining program on customer relations, anti-discrimination, and franchise protocols. Her tears paused. Retraining was not termination. But understand something, he added gently. The way you treated me wasn't a moment. It was a habit. And habits only break when someone forces you to see yourself. Marilyn bowed her head, sobbing quietly. He didn't gloat. He didn't smirk. He didn't enjoy her collapse. He simply allowed the truth to do what truth does, break, then build. He turned to Elena once more. You're doing good work, he said. Corporate will hear about that, too. Elena's eyes filled with tears of gratitude. Thank you, she whispered. He nodded, then finally walked toward the door again. But before stepping out, he paused and spoke just loud enough for everyone to hear. Treat people with dignity, he said. You never know who you're speaking to or who they are when the uniform or the clothes or the first impression fades away. And then he left, quietly, gracefully, powerfully, leaving behind a store full of people who suddenly felt the walls breathe again. The boutique stayed quiet long after the door closed behind him. Customers whispered among themselves, not in gossip, but reflection. The truth had landed. Heavy, necessary, unforgettable. Marilyn finally wiped her eyes, shoulders trembling as she sat in her small corner, realizing how easily respect had slipped through her fingers because she had never valued it enough to give it freely. Elena exhaled slowly, deeply moved by what she witnessed. She had always believed in treating customers with compassion, but today she had seen the cost of doing the opposite. And outside, the man walked calmly to his car, not angry, not triumphant, simply grounded in the belief that dignity must always rise above ego. He had experienced prejudice too many times to be surprised, but he had also learned that sometimes the most powerful justice is delivered not through punishment, but through revelation. Because when a person is forced to see themselves clearly, their words, their choices, their impact, that becomes a turning point where change becomes possible. And in the quiet space where truth settles, a universal lesson echoes. Respect should never be earned by wealth, status, or appearance. Respect is the baseline, the starting point, the one thing we all deserve. Always.
If this story touched your heart or made you think about how we treat each other, take a moment to subscribe. Your support helps us share more Black justice stories that inspire change, spark awareness, and remind the world what dignity truly looks like. Share and leave a comment. Your voice helps bring these stories to life and keeps the message alive. Your voice matters here,